Chihiro's dad must have been in a real dark place when he made the Shinoichi, probably right after Chihiro's mum died. You know what's funny here is that we actually know almost nothing about Chihiro's mother. We don't even know if she's alive, we don't know if she's dead, we don't even know if she's going to make an appearance within this series. However, what we do know for a fact is that a Q&A that happened in Japan Expo back in 2014, Hokuzono confirmed that he will actually write about her in the future of volumes, confirming that she will be important to the story. And even if you're not confident that Chihiro's mum appearing within the series is a thing that may happen, I think at the very least we will eventually get to learn a lot about her, more than likely from the Swordmaster himself, from Soga himself. After all, he's her brother, making him Kunoshiki's brother-in-law and now Chihiro's uncle, which, by the way, 2 series now in a row, both Jujutsu Kaisen and Kagurabachi, have seen the protagonist fighting with their uncle. If I had $1 for every time that happened, I'd only have $2, but it's weird that it happened twice. In the upcoming chapters, we'll see Chihiro and Soga going at it as much as they can, and if I'm totally honest, I genuinely can't see Chihiro winning this fight. As mentioned in the previous Kagurabachi review, Soga is a man who was peerless with the sword, still is. In fact, this very fact implies that no one has been able to push him or challenge him in any sort of meaningful way. Hell, even fighting against the former sword bearers, he wasn't defeated, he simply just chose to stop fighting. He gave up against them, essentially, not because he was defeated, but because he served no purpose in killing them as far as he was concerned. And I think it's the way of shonen manga that all but guarantees that Chihiro will be the one that pushes him further than anyone else has before. But I believe Chihiro's logical personality, as pointed out by Kunoshiki, will remind Soga of his sister, of Chihiro's mum, and I think he'll more than likely end up opening up to Chihiro and tell him things that help us, the audience, understand the broader picture of what's going on. After all, Soga so far has been depicted as the type of dude who will just yap. He seems a bit of an unserious individual in the matters that aren't anything to do with Japan. Either way, I am very, very excited to learn about Chihiro's mother, what role she'll play, how it'll affect the story, if it will at all. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Even if Enten can challenge the Shinoichi's power, Chihiro can't match his uncle's skill with the blade. I'm so fucking scared. Yeah, you're absolutely right. As I mentioned in the previous section, it's sort of the way of shonen manga that have these protagonists overcome the big bad evil in front of them all the time. And while it's very cliche in my opinion, Hokuzono is setting up Chihiro with the means to defeat Soga, and now it's just sort of the skills that he needs. Cliche, not in a bad way. I enjoy a cliche, but it is just how shonen mangas are written. Eventually, Chihiro will defeat this dude. He'll go through some trials and tribulations, but he will ultimately defeat him. It's just how about he gets around that. Right now, Chihiro has Enten, and Enten acts as a direct counter to the Magatsume. However, Soga is still the better sword. Hokuzono has made it very, very clear throughout the previous 100 chapters that simply wielding an enchanted blade just isn't enough. You need to become one with that blade. Mind, body, and spirit all in this beautiful harmony. You need to immerse yourself into the world of sword styles in order to truly bring out the full abilities and potential of these blades. Itsuo, Shirokai, and Samura and Uraha all serve to bring this point truly home harder than anything that we have seen within this series. Prime example here is Samura defeating Hirohiko. Hirohiko, who, while being touted as a prodigy, a student of freedom, Hirohiko was an absolute force to be reckoned with. Anyone that wasn't wielding an enchanted blade was just getting absolutely murked by him. However, his experience with the enchanted blade pales in comparison to the lifetime of swordplay that Samura has put into his craft. And I think we're going to see something much the same with Chihiro and Soga here in the coming chapters. I think Chihiro may be using his abilities to his advantage right now and nerfing Soga's abilities against him and nullifying them. But even with those abilities being nullified, Chihiro still has to contend with this man who, with the blade, is completely unparalleled and peerless. And I think these facts alone, I think, will cause Chihiro to ultimately lose this battle going forward and perhaps narrowly escaping thanks to Chihiro, and then hopefully, maybe, bringing us into that training arc with the remaining sword bearers. However, I wouldn't be surprised if Hokuzono doesn't do a training arc. It just seems like we're so far into the woods now that there's no time for training or preparation. Maybe a few technique lessons with other sword bearers, like a mini training arc, but I can't see Hokuzono devoting an entire arc to buffing Chihiro. Perhaps he might even go the way of doing a time skip. Who knows? After all, Chihiro is going to need everything and everyone he can muster to challenge this dude Soga. I think the swords are alive, and I predict that the swords will be like the Zanpakutos in Bleach, fully sentient, fully have their own personalities, and when you learn more about each sentient sword, the real name or another, the user gains more power. Just a working theory. Glad to have you back. Glad to be back. But this is something I do completely agree on. Hokuzono throughout the series has dropped these little subtle hints that point to these swords having some sort of sentient behavior. To what degree that is, I have no idea. Whether they have whole personalities attached to them, I have no idea. However, I feel like a man possessed because whenever this topic comes up, I constantly point back to the Rakuzaichi arc in chapter 32. Cloud Gouger, in solidarity with Chihiro, on the brink of death, strained to save its master, unleashing lightning beyond its limit. If you read this and came away with anything other than the idea that these swords have something deeper going on here, then I do not know what to tell you. If you need more moments like this for me to try and convince you here that the series is pointing to this or implying that there is some sort of sentience within these blades, then let me cast your minds to chapter 37, in which Chihiro seemingly communicates with Cloud Gouger, unleashing one final Mei within the storeroom of Kiora Sazanami's here. Chihiro was aware that this sword was all but finished, all but on its last legs, and despite that, just once more, that sword gives its life in order to help Chihiro and casts one final Mei. Now, you might have just heard me say, give its life, and think, well, swords don't have lives. And to that I say, don't they? Because I'm not so sure, personally. Let's take us back to the current chapter of chapter 107. The first 2 pages here give us something extremely interesting as far as I'm concerned. The extreme power produced by incinerating your life force reaches extreme concentrations and turns black. At the threshold of death, it glitters with an otherworldly light. What does this tell us? 1. Concentrated life force turns the abilities and black, essentially, makes them glow with an otherworldly light. In chapter 32, we see Yora noting this very same thing happening with Cloud Gouger's lightning. 2. It's worth noting that Chihiro was nowhere near close to the brink of death within this fight. Maybe he might have been using his own life force for this, but Yora himself even tells us that he has no intentions of killing Chihiro, and at this point, Chihiro might be roughed up, but he is nowhere near death. 3. You know who is near death at this point? You know what is near death at this point? Cloud Gouger. At this point in the story, Cloud Gouger is on life support, quite literally and figuratively. And while all of this is mere speculation, I believe these moments give us an inkling into something deeper that lurks beneath the surface of these enchanted blades. Perhaps it explains how Soga became so immutably intertwined with the Magatsumi, or maybe, just maybe I'm chatting shit. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for sticking around. I am excited to create and consume content this year. Recently, I have been gripped by the Red Rising trilogy, and once I've finished those books, I will begin exploring more manga for my second channel to deep dive stories and all sorts of manner of other things here. But I've also been drawing and colouring a lot over on my Instagram. I am brimming with so much creative energy right now that it's kind of hard to focus and channel it productively into what I want to do. I have so many ideas floating around my brain case that I can't quite focus on just one right now, especially while I'm reading this series. It's got me all sorts of messed up. But yeah, it's been a while since I've done a little Q&A video like this, and the itch is getting to me, so I thought I'd hop on here and drop a little quick video before the chapters drop in a couple of days. Anyways, if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing, and as always, it's good to catch up with you guys, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much fucking love, big fucking kisses, peace.